live there, and hopefully our guest will be joining us. But if there's some other challenges, then we'll be all right. Oh no, she's there. It's good. So if you want to, if you can, please check over. I don't ask you to do this much until, like I said, tonight we have a guest. But if you wouldn't mind jumping over to YouTube to the channel B.A. Shepherd, we're going to continue the live, and we're going to bring our guest on, and we're going to be there. So if you don't mind, please do that for me, because it won't really make sense for me to just talk one sided and when I'm having a discussion with someone else. But I don't know how to necessarily do it across all the platforms right now. So if you go over to YouTube, that would be fantastic. My channel is B.A. Shepherd, 2 P's, ARD. And we're going to head over there right now and jump on and just begin the conversation, keep the conversation going. So I'll give a few minutes for that transition to happen, because you don't want to miss tonight's message, tonight's messenger. Valerie has a tremendous story. So let's do that. I'm going to shut down these other platforms and let's meet over there. All right. See you in a second. All right. All right. So now we have fully transitioned over to YouTube, and we have our guest, and she is waiting. And so I want to bring Valerie on because she has a tremendous story to share. And so let me bring on Valerie right now and welcome Valerie. Valerie, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Awesome. Glad that you are here. And I'm
Yes.
so glad that we have this opportunity together, to share and to talk. We had a tremendous time today. And I was sharing with the audience, with the family, with the community, um, about you on the other platforms. And some of them are making the transition to come over now to hang out over here. And like we were talking about earlier, just this opportunity to step into new life on this Tuesday, February 2nd, 2022. Um, Such a unique opportunity, such a unique moment for us to have this. I wanted to introduce you to the community, and I was just wanting you to share your story on how you transform your life. I know because we talked a little bit about some of your experiences, and you're doing a lot to serve people. You're making an impact in the world. You're helping people out as they see themselves and the experiences that they've been through that they may not be, extremely happy about or thrilled about, and even perhaps heartbroken about. You are helping and you're serving people by using your story to make an impact. So first, I just want to thank you for being here and welcome you. And without taking up too much time, I want to give you the floor, to share with everyone what you're doing in the world, how you're helping people, and to share some of your story, because I know, I mean, using the Cinderella story and talking about how Cinderella went through a major transformation in her life, about transformation.
Yes.
And I would just be thrilled if you would share a bit of your story with everyone tonight. So, welcome. The floor is yours, and please do share.
Yes. And please interrupt me anytime if you have a further question as I share. Thank you so much for having me, and being here again together. How this evolved out of just the mere desire to serve and want to be helpful in this life that is so needed. Thank you for having me. My
My
name is
pleasure.
Valerie Ireland, and I have a vast story, but it certainly cannot go untold. And I cannot go back to like my year younger, like my little girl younger years, which I could. But I want to start from when I made a decision that really changed my life, which happened 22 years ago. I came to a moment where I was faced with life and death. And this was based on, or that stemmed from, I had such desired to be. Uh, to be what everybody else wanted me to be. Like I call it the chameleon effect. I wanted to fit in so bad. I wanted to belong so bad. I wanted to be perfect to everybody's eyes. I wanted to be thin. I wanted to be um, just I wanted to be accepted and validated. But I did it at expense of my own well-being. And I wanted to be thin so bad, and I wanted to numb my pain so much that I used food was my best friend, my comforter, when I was sad I ate, when I was happy I ate, it was just there. It's so readily available, and it happens to so many people. But for me, it became it was my go-to. It was my source for everything, that helped me push down and a little bit alleviate some of the pain that I had internally. But so I thought that it was numbing it, but it wasn't really meeting my real need. It was an unrealistic way of meeting the real need. And in that process, I didn't realize how much I was really truly hurting myself, and how not only my physical health was affected, but also obviously my emotional health wasn't tended, and my mental health, because food became a lot more than what is intended to be, which is just fuel for the body. So that process took me to a level where I was confronted with death. And I remember that moment where I grasped the air and I was like, I got to do something about this, or else. I had already been warned. I had already been told what could happen, but it had to happen to that level for me in order to react. And that's why I started my journey. And let me tell you, I started my journey of climbing up the mountain from barely surviving to wanting to thrive. But I had a very heavy backpack. I had a very heavy load. And I had to, one at a time, start to deal with every situation where like they call it, the layers of the onion, which I go back to it now, which is such a necessary process, because the progress is in the process. But my pain was such that I just wanted to get to the core and just like, what is it? Take it away. But it had taken obviously so many years to develop this. It had to take many years to really unlearn all that I knew that wasn't correctly, but it was the truth of what I knew. So in that process, I discovered, first of all, started discovering myself, who I am, my essence, my value, and started really meeting the real needs the way that they needed to be met. And so when I started coming to terms to my senses, I quickly realized that this is what I wanted to do, to give back to the people, to really give a hand to those struggling. And early on, I was given an opportunity, even like 2 months after I was, because I had to be hospitalized. I had many physical consequences, and it had to be drastic, the level of my health. So in that process, like 2 months after, I realized, I was like, whoa, there is life. I can do it. Wow, I exist. And so when that moment came, I quickly realized that this is what I wanted to do, to give back. And I was presented with an opportunity 2 months after to come back to the house, to be the leader of the house, to help the women there. I wasn't the only leader, but I was like a co-leader assistant, to really encourage the rest of the women. I remember there was a hurricane coming and everybody was like from out of town, and they were scared. They didn't know what to do. And I had survived Hurricane Andrew. And so I was able to calm them down. Here I am, I'm being used already to give comfort, when just a couple months before I was a mess. I couldn't even find the truth of who I was. So it was a beautiful process, unnecessary for me. And then in my journey, I went through many different paths. I mean, that was 22 years ago. So I did things that served a purpose, but then I quickly realized this path was no longer serving me. So I continued to learn and research as I continue to walk the path, so I could find better ways that would get me, would help me get deeper. Like I always was hungry for more. Like there's gotta be more to this. There's gotta be more to life, right? So I continue like digging in and trying to search, and God just put me in the right direction. I didn't know then, but now that I look back, I look at my trajectory and I realize that through the path, I realized like what I needed to let go more of, what was already in me, and also of the ways that I was learning, because they were not serving me at the level that I wanted to, or that I needed to be served, but they served a purpose for that time. So I continued
Yeah.
to learn. I continued to learn as I healed and as I grow. I continued to learn and to build, like I call it, I was building the bridge while crossing it. And now I help bridge the gap to those that have been in whatever stage of that bridge, all the way to its roots, or anywhere behind any past, any part of where I have been. So yes, through my journey, I've served in many areas. I went to I was trained by licensed consumer social worker. I did many seminars to help get to the root cause of the pain. I played role. Then I went into I worked for a treatment center and for recovering addicts, where I put myself as the story, worked with little girls to show that, find the little girl inside, because we all have one, and how to heal it and embrace the past so we can be present in the moment and we can live the future, taking one step at a time. And also I served as transference, where I also played different roles in the group settings. And I worked alongside with a nutritionist, because as I learned, obviously it's important what you give your body and to feed it with the fuel that it needs. But it is also important how you eat and also why you eat. And so in my journey of becoming, I discovered all the reasons why that is not just what you eat, but it's what's eating you inside. And so that is what we need to get to in order to really, really develop that relationship with self, so we can embrace the whole being and not trying to numb it anyway or pretend that it's not there, and just live a life that is not fully yours, because then then I couldn't become who I become. And so in the journey, I helped and served many people. I've seen transformations right before my eyes. And yes, I love transformation. I actually relate myself with the transformation of a butterfly, which I can talk more about that in a little bit. And yes, so it's been the journey, and now I'm just passionate to help, owning my voice, and giving it a purpose, because my mess now is my message. What I was when I the fact that I was a mess is now my message, and my pain is my purpose.
Yeah. Well, that is as you were talking about just the transformation in your life and like managing the pain, and you touched on, some of the food and hiding behind food. Do you I don't know if you feel comfortable enough sharing, but I think for many of us, when we go through that process of hiding, where we're
Mhm.
trying to mask something in life, because maybe something traumatic has happened, or there's been some level of pain or injury or hurt. Do you find that there are stories in your life that dir- that that immediately or directly related to you looking to food for comfort? Is there some experiences or anything that you could share with someone that might be perhaps watching today that's struggling with maybe not even not weight, but just this idea that they're hiding in their own lives? Can you touch
Mhm.
on that?
Sure, of course. So, yeah, so obviously, I had experiences in my childhood that left me feeling perhaps inadequate, or that I didn't fit in, or pain, or just like didn't know, like I was walking on eggshells sometimes. I didn't know what to expect next. And so I, was sad. And so a language that a lot of people speak, and this is the meaning given to the different kinds of food. Food is around everywhere, right? In everything. So it's a lot of uh, power given to food. For example, if you think of any type of celebration, any birthday, wedding, anything, one of the first things that come to mind, besides the venue and everybody's like, what food are we going to have? So food is around everywhere. And what I've noticed is that there's like an idolatry given to it in a way, because it's become so powerful. And right now it's put on your face everywhere, right? Because they're telling you, eat this, eat this, eat this, and that. So being that is readily available, accessible, legal, and it's easy to find and convenient, anytime that anybody has something that is discomfortable inside, we tend to equate or given the meaning to some item of food, some more than others, because when eaten, it releases endorphins in the brain that make you feel good in that moment. So in a way, you're turning to food because it gives you that comfort in the moment, because the feel good is happening in our brain, because the brain doesn't know if it's you're feeling good for an emotion, or you're feeling good for something or something that you're eating. Your feel good is a feel good. Releasing endorphin is releasing endorphin. And so once you make that connection, and then you have the emotional aspect attached to it, then it's almost like you're instead of eating the food, you're eating love. You're eating what makes you feel good. But you really can't eat love. And it makes you feel good in the moment, but then, even if it's not the weight problem, it leaves you like, okay, now the problem has come up again. How do I numb it or push it down, right? Instead of really truly, I mean, we've been told, I can talk forever about this, but we've been taught that emotions are wrong, and they really aren't wrong. And there's like bad emotions and good emotions. Really, that's a wrong label. There's uncomfortable emotions and there's comfortable ones. But people think, or we're made believe, that the whole time of our lives, we're supposed to be happy, dory, and comfortable. So as soon as anything uncomfortable comes, we either try to escape from it, numb it, somehow, some way. And food is a big aspect for the reasons I told you before. It's readily accessible, it's convenient, it's right there, it's legal, right? But this is like the source of why people, shopping is another thing, right? Shopping is another way to escape. Or, I mean, there's so many ways that anybody can escape the reality of where they're at because it feels uncomfortable. But no feeling will kill you. No emotion will hurt you. It just needs to go, you need to go through the process. And it truly, the only way out of it is through it. And better than keep pressing on and piling up and pushing down, because this cup can only receive so much, and it comes in overflow, or we act sideways, but whatever is not expressed is not only physiological, occupying space in your body, which is already weighing you down, but it's also, occupying space in your soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions. So then you feel trapped in having to have this, this ill thought or stored emotion, and then it dictates your will, which is your choice. And then you just continue making these choices to numb, and then it becomes a pattern. And then when it becomes a pattern, it becomes a habit. And once it's a habit, it's occupying this thick, like neural pathway in your brain. So the longer you do something to escape whatever pain it is, the pain doesn't go away. but the numbing um, paradigm, the numbing sequence that you use will create a pattern, and that habits are hard to break, but they're possible to break. I'm a living proof that they are possible to break.
What were some of the things that you did during your process of just of breaking those patterns to get free from what was a pretty dark time for you as you were dealing with an eating disorder? How did you handle that?
You mean once I raised my little flag of surrender and said, okay,
Yeah.
I need help. Yeah, so it was just coming to terms that mm, I had to accept the, like I said, mine was extreme. So I had to accept that all or nothing, like complete, like we just learned, discipline is, it's really like when you make a decision. I made a decision, and I had to put that decision at my forefront, regardless of what emotions came up. But I was also given the room to express my emotions, which I didn't have that outlet before. And I see that so much as a pattern now in people, because they don't feel they're safe to express themselves. And so, uh, I'm like, okay, I'm your safe platform that you can just express anything, and there's no judgment here. So I remember exactly when I was in a room surrounded with strangers, and they were passing around the food, and they said, Valerie, this is your friend, and this is your food. And I had stuffed my face with a bag of pretzels on my way over there, and I wasn't hungry. I could have eaten, but I knew that it was a controlled environment, and I couldn't do whatever I wanted with the food that I once I ate it. So I was like, okay. I felt all of a sudden it's like my sense of control was gone. I was like, oh no, you have to eat it. And then they went around in the room, and it came to me, all eyes on me. Valerie, how do you feel? I remember that moment, Brian, because it was the first time I was asked that. I was 26 years old, and and I felt like my world of pretend was no more. And
Mm.
in the world of pretend that I thought was like this cozy cocoon, well, realized that it was a cage, which kept me trapped. So that's when I realized, wow, there's freedom really truly in expressing your emotions, no matter how bad they come up. And needless to say, I started sobbing, and I couldn't even answer with a word how I was feeling, but I didn't need to at that moment, because the floodgates opened up, and I knew right there and there that I had made a good decision that could very well have saved my life, and that
Mm.
I was in an environment that, for the first time, somebody cared to hear my answer.
Mm. Yeah, when we were talking earlier today, you had mentioned how you were you were going through and having your struggles with not just eating. Eating was really just a symptom of
The same
what was
time.
what was going on in your life. And you talked about being a young girl and feeling like you were unseen, and
Mhm.
being a woman feeling like like you didn't have a value, like you didn't have a voice, and how that affected you as it pertained to you turning to food. Do you mind touching on that a little bit and just sharing? Because I know that there can oftentimes be people that are struggling with this idea that they're invisible and no one sees them. And and just give you can talk about your experience with that. I'm sure it would be encouraging for others to hear it like it was encouraging for me to hear it.
Yes. So Well, we talked about so many things and there were so many stories. I don't know which one in particular you were thinking about, but the fact that the feeling invisible, it's it's almost like I I felt like if I had to be I had to be certain. I had to be at certain level in order to be seen, in order to be approved, validated, um, loved, loved. Really, I was so starving for attention, the positive kind of attention, that um, in my case, I turn it. So if I don't get the positive, how do I get the negative, right?
Mm.
So and the invisibility came because of the shame that either was imposed upon me, or it was because the decisions I made to deal with things. For example, um, I call it the chameleon effect. I would become whoever the next person wanted me to be in order for me to feel loved, approved, validated, and seen. And
Mm.
so that's when I felt like I had to mold myself and change myself to become whoever the next person wanted me to be, or to be cool or accepted, or hey, come with me, and in doing that I was losing even more my sense of self, where I almost like I didn't realize like what who am I, like what am I living, what am I purpose. But that was so much pain in there that I didn't tap into it, that I was making myself invisible because I
Mm.
wasn't showing up as my true self. And when you put shame on top of that and then guilt, then it's like, it just became like I almost like I wasn't seen. Now I'm making all the reasons possible to not be seen anymore and not show up. And that carried along for a long time, a long time. And I felt like I was a ball of shame of anybody that would talk to me. So I complained about not being seen. At the same time, when I was seen and somebody talked to me, I turned inward, because that's where I knew where to go, because it was familiar, even though it wasn't the right place to go. It was familiar. And that's why we tend to go to places when it's familiar, and we tend to isolate, or we tend to hide. And those are the reasons why we're not feeling seen. And there's many pains that happened in my life, in my past, that kept me in that space of I wasn't worthy and I wasn't good enough, and so many things, as I told you, it just made me felt like like that I'm occupying space in this world that doesn't belong to me, and why am I even here? Like I'm
Mm.
a mistake. I got into thinking that I was a mistake. And so yeah, those were really, it become really deep patterns of that we carry along as self-limited beliefs. As we grow older, obviously we realize we have a plan, a purpose, we get married and all that, but deep down there's layers of these patterns, right? So those are the patterns that we need to get to the core in order to really meet the real needs, no matter what age. Some of these are exposed even in the people in the 60s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s. But the sooner you really find, because that's a lie. That's a lie. We exist. We are valuable. The fact that we exist, we are walking miracles, each of us. And so, that's a lie. And so, any truth that I can speak, any light that I can speak on that light, is I'll do it anytime, because it had me trapped for so long. But the truth is that I had been a victim of many abusers, and in order to match that pain, it's almost like I self-imposed the abuse to myself, and
Mm.
and realized that I was making them right by putting me me down and making me wrong, when I had to flip the tables and prove them wrong by me expressing myself and stepping up into the value and that I am, right? Or anybody that is. So it's, yeah, it was a journey, but it doesn't have to take that long. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm like, oh my goodness, it doesn't have to take you this long to realize, like, really your true value, your essence of who you are, and how beautiful you are. And I remember that moment, and I'll tell you a little bit that moment, but I just want to see if you have any questions.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were sharing about value and going through your own situations, and I think sometimes we have this world where perception is reality, right? Like, and I was thinking, and I shared this with you earlier, working with women, I get to hear a lot of conversation, I get to hear a lot of dialogue, and and as I shared with you earlier, you being in the world of health and wellness, and someone would look at you and they're like, yeah, okay, lady, what do we're not you don't have a clue as to what it's like. Like, here you are, your long hair, you look like, you work out all the time and you're super fit. Like, I think I think so much in our society positions women against one another, right? Where you're positioned against someone else to because they're seen in the eyes of society as being more ideal, or they have the body or the image or the looks. And so there becomes this like barrier that's placed between women, where that connection is broken down. But for someone like you who's been through something and who has a heart for other people, how do you how do you break down that wall so that you can actually connect with someone and let them know that you care?
Well, I mean, by sharing parts of my story that I've been there, it's something. Okay, so yes, usually people look at me and they think of me that I'm not approachable. Even I've been told that, and they're like, oh my god, you're so nice and you care so much. And I'm like, okay, once you know my heart. So now, instead of just walking along, like, I walk along with it's almost like my heart in my hand, and I've been given the gift of intuition and compassion. So I just put myself out there, but I also realize some people are not ready to open up. But I just say, I'm here. Just basically, I'm here whenever you're ready. And then how am I being seen is by sharing my story or sharing my pain, even when I wasn't asked, just because they could relate, and they could see that, oh, this person will get me. So if I'm doing that for them to get me, for them to realize that there's hope. That's what I want to give. There's hope and inspiration through my story, because I've been through many things. Can you hear me okay? Or is it cutting off?
It was cutting off just a little bit, but I can hear you okay. It has been pretty clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was I was gonna say, if you want me to connect with another device.
No, it's been okay. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad. Okay. Yeah. So you're good there. Um, I don't want to keep you much longer, but
So
I did want.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
to add to that question, in society, women, unfortunately, a lot of us are taught this culture that is competition, and is you're constantly comparing yourself with this image and this image and this image. But in reality, we have been created to cooperate and collaborate on one another, and that is the whole sense of empowerment. It's coming
Mm.
together and sharing the resources, and it's in our differences that we are beautiful. It's in our differences that it's our uniqueness. We don't have to fit the mold. We're not supposed to be in boxes. Boxes are not meant for humans. Like, we're not supposed to be, the same as the other person. We need to explore our uniqueness and embrace that and elaborate on that and shine from that. And and operate from that
Yeah.
difference, not in the competition. So this culture of one upping each other, or feeling like we have to defend ourselves, and that comes from history, and and that's why there's so movements of feminism and stuff like that, because it's like they go to the extreme, because we did not assume our roles from the beginning, that yes, obviously there's a whole thing with men and inequality and things like that, so people rebel, but then you don't find that ground where you're supposed to be centered and focused on what you have and who you are, and then show up as such. Instead, the focus is on what everybody else has, and then what I
Mhm.
don't have, and then what comes in between, this envy and jealousy, and in comparison, which
Yeah.
jealousy and envy keeps you in anger, in a dark place, and the comparison keeps you down in the wounds that you're not enough. So it's that's we're meant to like lock arms with other women and really exploit our greatness together and make each other better,
Yeah.
you know?
So what would you say to that, to someone that's watching right now, listening right now, that is really struggling with this idea that they're not good enough, that they're not enough? I know you've been through that. You told me, you're like, "Hey, I've been through that where I just felt like I wasn't good enough." What can you say to that person to just help them pass that moment of not feeling good enough?
Whew. um well, the fact that you exist proves that wrong right there. But I get it. I get when you feel sometimes that the world, the load of the world is on your back. Oh, that you have no idea what I've done. Oh no, I don't deserve this. Oh no, you have no idea what I've been through, and it's so painful. No, no, no. I am such a deep hole. You have no idea.
Mhm.
The person that is screaming to see you and for you to see will be standing on the other side of the mirror. I would tell you, I invite you to look at yourself in the mirror and start with your eyes. Just really look at yourself in the mirror. And I know it's going to be uncomfortable. I know, I know, I know. Trust me, I know. But you start with your eyes. At the beginning, you know how I would do it? I would go like this. Oh, I couldn't keep eye contact long enough. And I had to see the truth of, because when I pretended so long that everything was fine when things were not, the person that I was lying to the most all day, every day, and putting down, even with a lie that I'm not good enough, was me.
Mm.
So inside, I had this, you can see, I had that little girl screaming, "What about me?
Yeah.
When are you going to pay attention to me? Why do you keep beating me up? Why are you so mean to me?" But I didn't honor her. I didn't give her the time. So by starting to look at myself in the mirror, I saw layers deep into my soul. Like the mirrors are, your eyes are the mirrors to your soul. So in just doing that exercise until I was able to maintain eye contact with my eyes, and I did it until I cried,
Mhm.
until I connected to my heart, because in your soul is your heart and your mind. And so I did it long enough so I could keep eye contact. And so that's what I would say to anybody that's not feeling good enough. Just look at you. And even if you see your eye and there's just one eye, You're and just Google eyeball, and then you're gonna see that your eye is good enough.
Mm.
And start with baby steps. And I invite you to look deep into those layers of your eyes, or your eye, one eye, two eyes, whatever. And then you'll be able to connect deeply into your soul. And the truth will start unveiling itself. And then for me, and this is what I wanted to tell you, the day came, and when I came from beating myself up, really, I mean, I did everything in relations to food. I tried to get rid of it any way I could. And I stuffed my face, and it was just a numbing and expressing through this awful dance. It was like an internal war happening. I was proving myself with my actions that I wasn't good enough, just belittling, putting myself down. And that journey of that to starting to see me, the value of me, discovering who I am, to then being trusted, like I trusted myself to be by myself in it, caring for me, setting my table, putting a flower, putting music, loving me.
Mm.
Those are acts of love. But I still yet hadn't been able to see myself fully in the mirror. But the day came, and not just I saw myself in the mirror, but the point of this is I was able to stare myself in the mirror long enough that I cried those tears, and I was able to say to myself, I love you.
Mm.
And I said it enough times, like I get teary right now, that it connected deeply into my heart. And I believed it. And it gave me so much joy that I started, like, I'm being honest, like taking my clothes off, and I hopped in the bed and I started jumping of joy because I finally
Mhm.
saw me. I finally saw me for who I am. And I was able to accept what I saw on the other side with all
Mhm.
imperfections. And that moment, from that moment on, I realized that I needed to embrace all of me
Mm.
with the messy past, with where I was at. I learned in my journey to forgive everybody, but I hadn't come to the point, and that was the hardest point, to forgive myself.
Mm.
And so that happened, and that when that happens, that's when you truly start living. Because as I said before, you are your companion for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Do you like the company? You are your companion. So love your company. Be in your own skin. To be able to fit in your own skin is the most beautiful gift ever, because this is like the suit of your life. And
Mm.
so it's not the escape. You don't want to go anywhere else. You don't want to be anywhere else. You are okay being in your own skin with your messy
Yeah.
past, with the mistakes you made, just being in you, present in the moment. That really is truly a gift.
Yeah. Valerie, thank you so much for sharing your story and this message. I mean, I think the fact that you're able to share and give those nuggets of like just looking at yourself in the mirror, like looking eye to eye, seeing yourself eye to eye, and how powerful that was for you, and you working it all the way up to that point of being able to love yourself and love the woman that was looking back at you. Um,
Mhm.
it's such a practical thing too, something that we can just add into our lives, something you can do and something you can practice. And it's not just practice it once. You can practice it every time you show up at the mirror, right? Doing a little check-in just to make sure that you're okay with yourself. And something else you mentioned was that forgiveness factor.
Mm,
Needing to forgive everyone else, but then really realizing that you need to forgive yourself.
yes.
And that brings a great deal of liberty. Forgiving yourself, because we can be very hard on ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, I know that from my own personal like struggles in life, that I didn't want to forgive myself. That was a struggle. It was much easier criticizing myself for the mistakes and the errors or the missteps. It's much easier to hold that over yourself, but you're not living. You're actually just dying when you do
Hmm.
that. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. Um, I'm going to get ready to sign off, but before we do, I know you have a challenge coming up where you're going to dig deeper into this and serve more. Do you mind sharing about your challenge and when it's going to be and when it's going to take place?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, it really has been such a even a deeper level of discovery, because as I was writing this about my upcoming event, which I choose to call it a kickstart,
Okay.
as I was writing and really deeply connected to the pain that I felt and everything, once it came to life and I read it, I was like, oh, I wish I had read this when I was suffering in silence back then. I really
Mm.
wish I did. And so it is my honor to do this and to present this. And my event is happening March 7th and
Okay.
Eastern Standard Time at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's just 5-day kickstart to empower your eating and conquer the battle with the weight. So it's an honor for me to do it, and it's my duty, to give back, because I've been blessed to be a blessing. I just, if I can just shorten the path of people that are going through that, so it doesn't take the 22 years, so it doesn't take this whole process of everything that I had to. I put myself as the guinea pig, trial and error through different processes until I came up with my own, which has served me and worked for me. And now I just want to share it with anybody that it's out there and ready to receive it. Because one thing, like I said, transformation and change. Um, change wouldn't exist if I mean, butterflies wouldn't exist if change wasn't possible. And
Yeah.
so I love the process of the butterfly, how it becomes oh, thank you, it
There you go.
becomes from it is like a caterpillar. A caterpillar doesn't know it. It only knows it needs to eat and eats its way until it finds that comfort, and then it turns into a cocoon or
Yeah.
chrysalis. And then it hangs in there, first through a thread, and then that hanging comes so solid that it relaxes into where it is and trusts in the process. To He doesn't know what is becoming, but trust in the process, because you can really imagine how wonderful and beautiful you are on the other side of you saying yes to yourself. And so as the cocoon is like, well, I'm going to take a nap. I'm here trapped, so might as well. But in that, it wasn't a nap. That got to become mush in the process. But it's in the mush that the beauty is created. And once it got solidified, once it started feeling strong, then it started breaking off that cocoon. But even so, the wings had not been developed. And if anybody helps in that process, then you really do not go as strong as you're supposed to take flight. So in that process, even wounded, wet, and feeling like fragile, you open up your wings, and it's in that process that the blood is created to strengthen the wings. So it is that process that makes you, it is that process that builds you, is that process that makes you strong. What you think is going to
Yeah.
hurt you and kill you, it's actually making you stronger to become the beautiful you that is on the other side. So, and once you can spread your wings and fly. So that is my hope and my wish for everyone, and that's why I'm doing this. And so I'm excited to doing this and kicking it off March 7th at 6 p.m. And if I can just like give a tap of the foundation of what the process is to take them through the awareness behavior change, because change is not only possible, but it's also necessary in this process.
Mm.
And the progress is in the process.
That's great. Thank you so much, Valerie. You're actually um, speaking about change. You're a part of change. I shared with you earlier how I have this vision of building and supporting and building this sisterhood with many women and with many experiences and with many people that can add to the community, can share life, can share knowledge, can share insights. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to create this platform and to interact and share with others, those people that are in my life that I meet and um, that have strong messages of transformation, because that's what it's all about. Being able to know that every woman has the power to transform her life, and I believe that, and I preach that every woman has the power to transform her life. And for you, showing up, being here today, I know you're doing something new in your life. You're launching out. You're wanting to serve more, and at the same time, you're now here sharing for others that you don't know, but that they're watching now, and they're being encouraged by you in this moment. And you're encouraging me because today is the kickoff and the first time that I've ever done an interview, right? So
Yes.
it's like we're
New
making history,
beginnings.
right? It's a new beginning
New
right now,
beginnings.
and more stories. We're going to bring them out, because I believe this wholeheartedly. Oftentimes we can look at TV, we can see people that are in entertainment, we hear their stories and we hear about them, but we don't oftentimes hear about perhaps the woman that we live in the house with, or the one that's next door, or the one we are in, some community with somewhere. And the more we can share stories of transformation and change, we can overcome this life. Right? There are enough obstacles out there facing each and every person. But our stories, the stories that we have within, our victories, our struggles, when we share those things, it can be life to someone else. And it can also be healing for ourselves. And I believe today that you have shared some words of wisdom, some words of love and encouragement that have touched someone's life. And I can tell you for certain, you showing up and being here and agreeing to do this with me, you encourage me because the dream is coming true, right? The vision, the idea of being able to do this is now taking another step. And so being in this process and developing this way, we're going to continue to grow, which means more lives will be touched. And and there's no greater work than impacting the life of those that are around us and those that we're able to touch. So for all that are watching live, for those that are watching on replay, I just want you to be encouraged to know that you have something within you to share, right? Valerie didn't dive deep into her story, and I'm sure we'll have opportunities to have her back and to share where she can go real deep into some other stuff, and you'll be blown away by the things that she's been able to overcome. And being a part of her jumpstart, her kickstart, that's a great place to even connect with her more. And I encourage that, because I know, like, I would stand behind Valerie and say, listen, she has a heart. She has a heart to love on people. And that's where we can start. start with love, and we'll figure out the details. Right? She wanted to show up. When I said, "Hey, let's do it tomorrow," she said, "Let's go for it today. Let's just go for it. Let's just do it." I'm like, "All right, bet.
Yes.
Let's go."
And I
Right?
told you because I had this vision, right? Of today being 2/22 of 22.
Right.
And I had this feeling that it was like, it's new beginnings, it's new beginnings. And so we had this amazing conversation and like, why don't we just do it today? Let's just step into
Let's
it.
just go. Right.
And yes, because we shared each other's heart and people don't know, people are starting, everyone has a story. You listening, you have a story, and it is worth, it's worth nurturing it, and it's nurturing you, and then eventually you'll become somebody's answer. Your story is somebody's answer. So
Yeah.
it's not a small thing that we get to live it and live life fully. And obviously, my focus is in a healthy body, but with a healthy mind and a healthy heart and a healthy soul. So we're just amazing beings, and I strive on making change attainable, possible, and celebrate it, because you are worth it. And so um, and you're worth the work. It requires work, but you're not alone. So I love that you stepped up on this, and I'm so excited on this new beginning for you as well, Brian. You're an amazing, amazing person, amazing human, amazing soul, and you've already touched so many people's lives. You've touched mine certainly in many, many levels, and yeah, so I appreciate you and all that you do, and this is the beginning.
Yeah. That's the beginning. Thank you so much for being here, for for sharing with the community. Really, um, you added life, and I appreciate everybody that's, like I said, watching live. Those that are watching on replay, you are appreciated. You are a part of this. Um, I don't call it a movement because I oftentimes think that movements go so far and then they stop. So I think of it as a revolution where it just keeps on spinning, just keeps on coming back around, and I know that those that are here, they're going to make an impact in lives generationally. And like we talked about this earlier, and you talked about being nervous, and you're like,
Right.
you know, but now look at you, you stepped out. And so I think it's great for people to see the journey that you're starting something, you're launching something new in life, and here you are. This is your a first step for you, and that others can be encouraged to take their first steps as well, right? To see whatever happened in the past, the pain, the hurt, take all of it and say, "You know what? I'm still living. I'm going to keep on living. I'm going to keep on moving forward. I'm going to keep on healing, and I am going to see the best of me." Right? I'm going to do what Valerie said. I'm going to look myself in the mirror, be eye to eye, tell myself that I love you, because each and every one of you are worthy of that love, and you're the perfect person to start giving yourself that love. So tonight, just be encouraged by this moment, by this time that we've had together. I appreciate you all being here. And you know me, I'm going to close out with prayer because that's what I do. I want to bless you that way. You don't have to believe what I believe, but just receive it as a blessing. So Father, thank you for this time that you've given us, this day, this opportunity to be together. Thank you for each and every person that is here that has taken some nugget from this conversation, from this time of talking and sharing one with another. I pray that someone's life is forever blessed. I pray that someone is encouraged, that their life is strengthened, and that they believe that the best of their life can still be seen, that they can move forward, and that whatever happened in the past, whatever hurt, whatever shame, whatever things may be there, that they can still have life and have life more abundantly. And so I pray for abundant life. I pray for abundant joy. I pray for healing, for strength, for miracles, for relationships to be made whole. I pray that forgiveness is given, that we would forgive others and we would forgive ourselves,
Yes.
and that we would see ourselves as being worthy of love
Mm.
and accept it. Accept that we are worthy of love, that we
Yes.
would live in love, that we would grow in love, and that we would give love. Thank you for all these things. I pray blessings and thank you in advance for them being given, and we count them as done. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for this first kickoff on this Tuesday. I'm so excited and so appreciative. Valerie, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And remember, you are beautiful. You are amazing. You are strong. I'm B.A. Shepherd, two P's, A-R-D, reminding you to be a shepherd. The world has enough sheep. Good night. I love you
Yes.
much. See ya.